Hey guys, this is a recording of the second part for the tutorial for chapter 8. Without wasting any time, let's jump straight into it. Question number 3. Workers at a local mining company are paid 500 Rand per hour, and they have incorporated a 20% annual raise in their contract to account for expected inflation. Explain how an unexpected inflation of 30% will affect the real wage and the unemployment rate. So we're going to start off by calculating wages before unexpected inflation, and we're going to account for the 20% annual raise. So we're going to say 500 multiplied with 120% is equals to 600. Then we're going to deduct the unexpected inflation with the 20% annual rate. So 30% minus 20% is equals to 10%. And our real wages would therefore be equal to 500 multiplied with 90%. 90% being 100% is the 10% we just calculated to get real wages of 450. As a result of the unexpected inflation of 30%, the unemployment rate would decrease, which would result in lower real wages as firms will be employing more people. Question number 4. Explain the following equations. The first one is this one. So unemployment is a function of growth. And the natural rate of growth needed for the population needs a certain growth rate in order to create jobs. On the left-hand side of the equation, we have unemployment rate, and on the right-hand side, we have the growth rate. And unemployment depends on the growth rate, right? Like I just said. For a certain level of unemployment, we need a certain growth rate, okay? In chapter 6, we assumed that changes in output led to equal changes in employment and that the labor force is constant, meaning that output and unemployment move in the same direction. So a 10% increase in input would lead to a 10% increase in employment. And in that case, this would be the relation, okay? And what this relation implies is that a change in unemployment will be equal to the negative of the growth rate of output. But there are two factors that are ignored in this equation. The first one is the labor force growth, and the second one is the labor productivity growth. The labor force growth. Firms employ less than one-on-one response in response to output growth. Okay, so firms don't necessarily employ 6% more when there's a 6% increase in output, right? Here's why. Some workers are needed no matter the level of output, like the accounting department. The same number of workers are needed despite the output growth, right? And then the second one is employing new people comes with a cost. So getting new employers, training new employers is costly. The second factor is the labor productivity growth. An increase in employment does not lead to a one-on-one increase in unemployment, okay? So why is that? Not all new jobs are filled by unemployed people, okay? So some jobs are filled by people who are employed but changed their jobs. So maybe they change from one job to another. And eventually, people who were classified as unemployed start looking for employment. And therefore, because of those two factors, this would be the equation. And this relation simply implies that output growth above normal leads to a decrease in the unemployment rate, and output below leads to an increase in the employment rate. And the beta is a measure of the effect of output above the normal on the change in the unemployment. The second equation. Inflation is a function of expected inflation. And at the same time, it's a function of the negative related to the unemployment gap, sorry. So inflation is a function of expected inflation, and at the same time, it's a function of the negative related to the unemployment gap. The theta, it shows how strong or weak the relation between the unemployment gap and actual inflation is. So reducing inflation means contracting monetary policy, right? And reducing output growth and accepting higher unemployment. Some economists argued that this deflation would be costly, and therefore this was the relation. And this equation simply implies that accepting unemployment is the only way to reduce inflation. But some economists argued that deflation might be less costly, and this is called the Lucas critique. Policy change predictions could be misleading as it is estimated from historical data. And this equation assumes that wage setters would keep expecting inflation to remain the same as it was in the past, okay? And their argument was that if the central bank was actually committed to lower inflation, wage setters might as well expect inflation to be lower in the future than in the past, okay? And wage setters would therefore decrease their expectations. Because of that argument, the new equation is this one. And what this equation implies is that the only key to deflation is the credibility of the central bank. I hope you guys understand. And that is the end of the tutorial. If you have any questions, please consult with your tutors, and thank you guys.